It's just about to open in Toronto. It's going on a US tour later this year. It's going to open in Australia, I think next year or the year after. It's going on a UK tour next year as well. So it's just getting bigger and bigger, yeah.
And in fact, they're still taking bookings in London, I think, until October, is that right?
Absolutely. It's selling out every night, yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the story, the First World War. Do you get very emotional with it? We know it's one of the most moving plays that's been seen for a very long time on the stage in the West End. What is it like for you every day?
It is quite amazing every day. We kind of take it for granted. We take these horses for granted, and we come in and just do a play like we do most of our careers. But this has something unique about it. Everyone is on their feet at the end, and I think due to the First World War being involved, due to animals being involved, there are two things that really pull the heartstrings of this nation, and it's the story, I think, the reason for its success. It's just amazing. You see how everyone's kind of captivated by it.
Now, the three puppeteers, they're not horsemen, so they had to actually learn the exact movements of the horse. What was the process in the training of all this?
There was time spent with horses, but not as much as you'd think. They spent a lot of time, we spent a lot of time actually looking at YouTube clips. They're quite handy for the biomechanics of how a horse kicks or how a horse rears, how a horse gallops. The footfalls, incredibly important to get right. But the main thing about the puppeteers is to get them working together as one. It's three people playing one part, so there has to be a collective breath. And you see them improvising today. In the show, there's obviously set marks they have to hit, but today they have to really be in tune because they have to make decisions as one.
I think we should point out also that all the puppeteers, they are wired for sound. They've all got microphones. The noises that you hear, they're not recordings. You were actually talking about the training with the noises, the horse noises. Captain Nichols, tell us about that.
Did a lot of, all the puppeteers did a lot of work with the voice coaches at the National Theatre. Obviously a horse has a massive set of lungs, which we don't. So they have to use three people to make one sound. And the power, the breath, energy it takes to make those sounds, you can hear, it's a lot. And having them mic'd up does help. There you go. Topthorn's as vain as some of us actors, I think.
One of the extraordinary things that we've seen here today at Beta International is that none of these movements have been practiced. This is complete improvisation, and yet you've got three puppeteers almost telepathically talking to each other about the movements. It's absolutely fantastic.
That just comes with experience. These guys have been working in horse, as we call it, for a long time, and working together for a long time, so they kind of know what each other's thinking. And none of the actors, none of the puppeteers will lead the movement. It's a very organic thing. So Ben in the back could decide to do something and everyone else will follow. While he's eating, I'll just show you a bit about how he's made. This is a metal frame. You can see here that, all right. This is a metal frame. and there's harnesses inside that Robin and Ben are both wearing. The reason there's a metal frame is to hold us riders on top. We actually do ride the horses in the show, although we haven't got a saddle here today, so I can't. Then on top of that, we have cane work that's moulded into position, and a light gauze that's put underneath that cane work. The reason you can see through it is mainly so the puppeteers inside can see out. They did think a lot about having a block fabric over the top, but that doesn't really work as much. And also, it's trying to if you had that, you'd try and deny the fact it's a puppet. This isn't trying to shy away from the fact it's a puppet. Everything on the horse is bespoke. It's bespokely made. Only the brake cables, I think, for the ears and the brake cables for the tail are kind of factory bought. Everything else is made for the horse.
I actually met, is it Zach earlier, who travels with the puppets, and he sort of engineers them and looks after the engineering of them?
Yes.
Because they're actually made in South Africa, aren't they?
They are, yes. The Handspring Puppet Company are based in Cape Town, and the first productions puppets were all made in a workshop at the bottom of their house, and now they have a massive puppet workshop, puppet factory, making all these puppets for all these productions I was telling you about. And each production has to have a number of puppets, a number of spare legs. So for leg breaks, a team of people come in, like Zach, and change a leg like a Formula One car changes its tyre. Has to come off stage and go quickly back on. In the first show, we'd have 20, 30-minute stops while a hoof was being changed. But now they're a bit more up to date.
And what other puppets have you got in the show?
There's a puppet goose. If anyone's seen the show, you'll know how much it steals the limelight from even the horses. Puppet crows, and there's lots of kind of one-man puppets, puppet soldiers for cavalry charges. There's more to it than just these guys, but they are the main attraction.
We ought to ask, actually, who has seen the London stage performance of Warhorse? Hands up. And what about the film? And now you've seen the film, and now you've seen Topthorn. Who's going to go to London and see Warhorse? I thought so.
It's much, much better. It really is. It's been very good, actually, for everyone involved in the show. The success of the film wouldn't exist without the play. The play's been such a success and brought it to such a wide audience. Steven Spielberg came to see the show and loved it so much he decided to make a film. So everyone involved with the show has a great sense of pride. But the show is much, much better. Just show you a little bit more about the horse and how it moves. Topthorn, Topthorn, walk on. So you can see, you asked about how the horses move. They're so well made that actually, as long as you move them correctly, whoa, 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 all right, right. If you move them correctly, Robin on the front, for example, simply has to pull that lever. You can see the way it's engineered, the hoof will come up. I can't make him do that. Hang on, here we go. There we go. So you can see, or you guys, thank you. You can see it's actually quite simple the way it's made. There's nothing, it's all still wood. All right, all right. Wooden cable. In the front, the axis sits in a kind of trough that moves up and down, so you can see the horse breathing. Just very simply, just with Robin extending his legs. The back legs operate in a very different way. There we go. Better get out of the way of that. Yes, all right. And the tail as well. The tail, you can see Ben's got brake cables, brake levers that pull brake cables and operate the tail. Same with the ears. On Toby's controls, he's got a couple of levers that will, there you go. That's where I think the horses are brilliant as well, is the detail, the minute detail of the ears and the tail.
We were talking earlier that we've got Ben, Robin and Toby here, that they actually can't do a performance much more than 20 minutes, because what's the weight of this horse?
The horse weighs 40 kilos. And then you get people like myself riding the horse as well in the cavalry charges. Not only the weight, but also the physical endurance of it in terms of the positions they have to be in. You see Ben here the whole time, he's kind of crouched over. You see the shape of his spine. It's not, human bodies weren't actually meant to do this. Toby has so much strain on his shoulder. So there's been a lot of, the medical bill on the show is quite big. We have lots of spare puppeteers, so no one does more than 2 or 3 performances a week, I believe. But it's worth it, I think. Does anyone, before we go, does anyone have any questions at all?
If you put your hand up, we'll come round with a microphone. No, Lynn,
No?
you can't have a ride. Was that your question? Yeah, I thought so. No questions at all?
No?
Nicola Wilson there, looking for a replacement for opposition Buzz. How about that?
No, I can't. Can't make him do anything. He has to do what he wants to do.
Have you seen how a real horse reacts to this? Does a real horse see a horse,
Well,
or does
yeah.
it see a puppet?
Earlier, we had a horse in there, and they met. Horses are very strange. We in the first production, we had the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery bring a horse onto the stage at the National Theatre. We worked with them a lot in developing the show. A horse will see that. It looks like a horse, it kind of moves like a horse, but it doesn't smell like a horse. They can get freaked out. The horse we met earlier was incredibly calm, and yeah, lovely. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see them meet, yeah. Yeah, but they're still interested enough to give it a sniff, yeah. I beg your pardon, there's another question, I'll come to that in a second. We're just gonna have a little trot. Come on, Topthorn. T-rot. I would get him to gallop, but I don't think there's enough room. Whoa, 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 whoa. Good boy. Obviously for the guys it's a lot harder work on this flooring because it's very, very spongy. In the show we've got a rubber stage that's got a bit more grip on it. Any more questions at all? The economics.
Economics, yes.
Economics.
How much does it cost to run the operation?
I have no idea. I'm terribly sorry. I know that a lot of money was spent, a lot of time was spent developing the show. Developing the initial puppets. They were developed over 4 or 5 years. I don't do numbers, I'm afraid.
When the horse travels, does it travel in one piece or do you take him apart?
Yes, it travels in one piece. We've actually got a horse box outside. It travels in one piece. Like I said, the legs are quite very interchangeable, and the harnesses inside are specific to each puppeteer, so they can be changed very easily. But it does, yeah, move in its own box.
Captain Nichols, there's a young lady here who a year ago wasn't born and with Isabel, and has said to her mum she'd like to go and have a little stroke. Is that possible?
Yes, of course.
Sophie and daughter Isabel, born next week a year ago. Good boy. Well, we're coming towards the end of our time slot for the 3 puppeteers. Captain Nichols, thank you very much indeed, and thank you very much indeed for the 3 guys here with Topthorn. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's going to be a Beta International that people here are just not going to forget. Thank you.
Pleasure. Come on. I've got to try and get him out.
Ladies and gentlemen, give Robin, Ben and Toby a huge round of applause.